course, we know Bill Barr, former Attorney General in the Trump administration, he was reacting and walking through some of his thoughts about what will be happening with Donald Trump and the Trump prosecution.
For insight into this and much more, we're joined by Bill Barr, who served as Attorney General in the Trump administration. Since then, he has criticized the former president on a number of fronts. He's also the author of, I love this title, One Damn Thing After Another, Memoirs of an Attorney General, which is out in paperback today, wherever you like to buy your books. We're happy to say that Bill Barr joins us at the table this morning.
What's up,
Good to
Bill?
see you.
Good to see you, Gail.
Bill Barr. Listen, I know from reading your book you play a mean bagpipe, but I'm understanding you're not going to be serenading us today.
Not today, no.
Yeah, our loss. But let's talk about the meeting yesterday
Bagpipes are cool.
that the Trump
They're
attorneys
cool.
had with the special counsel. What does it say to you? What is the significance? Because you know how this game is played. You know this record. You know this song. What did it say to you?
I think that meeting was probably held to complain about some aspects of the special counsel's work.
Wow.
Because generally the special counsel is generally independent and can make up their own mind. And I think they probably went to Main Justice, which is where this meeting was held, to claim that the special counsel hasn't been following the rules.
But does it say to you that an indictment is near?
I suspect it's near. I've said for a while
Yeah.
that I think this is the most dangerous legal risk facing the former president. And if I had to bet, I would bet that it's near.
You believe there is enough evidence?
Well, they won't indict if there's not enough evidence, but from what I've seen, there's substantial evidence.
And if there is a federal indictment, Bill, do you think that that hurts
Create
him
it.
politically? It seems that whenever he's indicted or he's under scrutiny, his numbers go up, the support goes up, the donations go up. Do you think a federal indictment will make a difference? And I know it won't for his core base.
So in the immediate future, it might, but I think if based on the facts, as the facts come out, I think over time people will see that this is not a case of the Department of Justice, conducting a witch hunt. In fact, they approached this very delicately and with deference to the president, and this would have gone nowhere had the president just returned the documents. But he jerked them around for a year and a half, and the question is, did he deceive them? And if there's evidence of that...
He jerked them around. He's saying that he's entitled to do that. He's making his claim that he's entitled to do those things, Bill.
I think people will start to see that this says more about Trump than it does the Department of Justice. And that is, he's so egotistical that he has this penchant for conducting risky, reckless acts.
That I agree with, that he does push the line, right? He really does push this envelope. And he does things that a lot of other people wouldn't do. And that doesn't necessarily make it illegal in this country. We talked all about this with the election. You're allowed to question, I mean, even now on YouTube, you're allowed to question elections. Is that not free speech? Is that not democracy? Donald Trump made an argument, and when we even covered the election and about Mike Pence's authority and what can happen under the Constitution and the counting of the electoral ballots and all the things, we came to the conclusion that I didn't even think that Mike Pence had the authority to do what many were claiming, but that doesn't mean that Trump has an inability to make the argument. He can still make the argument. You can disagree with it. You can bring many election litigation cases in the court of law. That is the whole point of our system. It's called an adversarial system. We challenge things all the time. And only in certain instances do FBI agents raid former presidents or raid anybody. They do it because they've got a vendetta. They're not fair and impartial and neutral. They're not coming in good faith, Bill.
Show that he can sort of get away with it. It's part of asserting his ego, and he's done this.
It's not his ego. It's pushing back against the entire corrupt institution, Bill. Not everybody just comes in and bends the knee to the government.
Repeatedly at the expense of all the people who depend on him to conduct the public's business in an honorable way. And we saw that with both impeachments. And there's no excuse for what he did here. Whether it's a crime or not remains to be seen.
Do you think he deceived them? You know this man very well. Do you think?
I think the government believes that.
I didn't ask to the government. I said, do you think? You know?
I don't know. I don't know the evidence in that kind of detail.
But you also said he didn't act in an honorable way. Everybody who knows you says that you are an honorable man. They may disagree with some of the things you say or some of the things you do, but they say the core of Bill Barr is he's an honorable man. And I guess I wonder why you worked with him for so long, seeing the things that you saw up close and personal, why you stayed as long as you did.
Well, I went into the administration halfway through, and I did it at a time where I felt he was being treated unfairly on the Russiagate thing. I thought that was it turned out to be, I think, a big lie.
It was, Bill. And you know who indulged all of that crap? The same people who are indulging this crap. That's the point. He was besmirched and unfairly prosecuted. This is another iteration of that. Just because you happen to disagree with this one, or maybe this one's more politically opportune for you, or you've decided to change gears and pick a different racehorse or whatever the case is, or maybe you just got to sell more books, and CBS is a great place to do it. But it's the same institutions doing the same things, Bill.
And I felt that he was the duly elected president, and he deserved the chance to conduct his administration. And I went in because I thought I could help stabilize things.
There
and
you
also
go. That's the reason. He went in because he wanted Trump to not wreck the DOJ and the FBI. The institutions that he really cared about, that he thinks are more important than anything in the world, they've got to be protected. And who can do that? Only Bill Barr, because Donald Trump is a bull in a china shop, and he has to get him out of the store.
Have the administration conducted in an appropriate way. And as I felt the idea that the election was stolen was a big lie, and I wasn't going to play a part in that.
You called him on that, yeah.
Well, Mr. Attorney General, the former President Trump is still the odds-on leader of the party and the likely winner of the primary if it were to be held today in all 50 states. But you don't think he's going to win the nomination. I know you still hold that view. Who do you like as an alternative? Is it Ron DeSantis? Is it the governor of Virginia? Is it the governor of North Dakota? If you're a Republican voter right now, you've got a lot of strong choices out there.
I like most of the people running. I think they're great. And what they show, and people who are locked into Trump have to start focusing on the facts. And the facts are that we have Republican leaders who can follow conservative policies and expand the vote and win crushing victories like DeSantis did, like Governor Kemp in Georgia, like Governor Youngkin, who's very popular in Virginia, following conservative policies.
Yeah.
Trump is almost unique in his inability to attract voters. He repels people other than his core base.
And he's got a strong psychological...
I like everybody. Except Trump. You know, he's the worst one ever. They can't wait for Trump to be prosecuted, and they're on team deep state, really, against anybody who could challenge it or threaten it. And the DOJ, the FBI, they're part of those institutions. And so Bill Barr protects them at all costs. Now, Ted Cruz also weighed in on this. He has an interesting theory. He says that we might get a 2-for-1. He says, I believe that Merrick Garland will indict Hunter Biden and Donald Trump. This is to show the illusion of equal justice. He says the DOJ will indict Hunter Biden on personal issues like drug charges or tax problems, exactly. And this is to cover up and insulate Joe Biden and his family's corruption. It's a red herring. It's a shiny object. It's look over here. Hunter's getting prosecuted. Oh my gosh. We don't care about his drug crimes. Nobody cares about his gun charges. We care about him being the bagman for the vice president. Him selling out this country's interests for his own personal gain. That's what we care about. But they'll shiny object this thing. They'll try to pigeonhole it so we never hear about it. Here's Ted Cruz.
I don't think Merrick Garland will indict Trump over classified documents. Here's my prediction. He'll indict Trump over, quote, obstruction of justice for hiding the classified documents. Now, mind you,
that sounds reasonable.
He's not saying...
That sounds reasonable because he's got to make a distinction between Joe and between Pence and anybody else who's had classified document problems. I'm sure there's a lot more of them. So the distinguishment, the feature as to why Pence does not get prosecuted, but Trump does, is obstruction. Same cases. The only thing that disambiguates them is the obstruction. And they get that obstruction with the intentionality by Trump holding the document, reading the document, saying he knows everything about it.
Underlying classified documents were a crime because he'd have to indict Joe Biden, too. He's going to instead create a crime about a non-crime. That's going to be the basis of the indictment. And I think you're right. He will also indict Hunter Biden, but he'll do it on purely personal matters, dealing with drugs and guns and tax issues for Hunter that have nothing to do with Joe Biden, because this DOJ wants to protect and insulate Joe Biden and the Biden family's corruption, and they want to use Hunter Biden as a scapegoat to justify targeting Donald Trump.
And it's a nice way to just change the story and say, no, it's been very impartial. And you'll see a lot of that in the media. They'll lap it up as they play cover for their political team. The Trump prosecution heating up. Of course, we're going to continue to cover this, and we appreciate you joining us. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video, and we look forward to seeing you as we cover it.